Support WrestleTalk!
No, you're not seeing things. It is me, Adam Blampied, instead of Luke Owen, joined by, she's making a return to the WrestleTalk podcast, Alex, Queen of the Ring, back by popular demand. Hi, Alex. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Adam. How are you? And thank you for everyone for demanding me. Ooh.
Yeah. After the last podcast came out, everyone was just like, Luke and Alex have such great chemistry. So one could only hope we share something of the spark that you and Luke shared. But I'm doing really, really well. It's really hot here, and I'm not used to it. I'm a pale little white boy, and I can't handle the mugginess, quite frankly. How is New York, famously the world's coolest city?
Well, I'm a pale Puerto Rican, so I as well feel that pain to an extent of heat. It's like 90 degrees over here. It's been raining, thunderstorms. It's disgusting. Yeah, it's disgusting out here. And also, they're doing construction outside my window, so there may or may not be a man looking into my window right now.
Hey, like there may be a man looking in all of our windows. It's 2020. I don't even know what that meant. It is nice to have a 100% great hair WrestleTalk podcast. I don't think that's ever happened before.
No, it hasn't. Your blonde hair and this new fringe mullet going on right here.
We are boosting the glam appeal of the WrestleTalk podcast. So let's kick straight into our topic for this week. So Booker T has drawn a substantial amount of heat, not only from fans, but from backstage as well. Some of his fellow wrestlers. He went out on his podcast and said the following, which I'll retweet in its entirety. Read in its entirety. It says, Naomi deserves a chance. They can go to hell with all these hashtags. I'm tired of hearing about them. Don't nobody deserve a chance. You have to earn a chance and your spot on the roster. And this is not some kind of movement just to pull somebody up just because. I hate to say this because I like Naomi, but as far as the business goes, you get it on your merit alone. There's no buddy system. Well, such and such has a buddy and that's why they're doing it. That might be true, but life is not fair. Sometimes you have to make your own breaks and rise to the occasion when no one else thought you could. It may not happen overnight. No one expected me to become a 6-time champ, but my persistence of going out there and performing better than all those suckers in the locker room, and they knew it, and the fans saw something different. So to that, Naomi responded basically, thanks Booker, with a Jim Carrey with tape on the face
from Yes Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Sasha held less back, saying, don't feed into useless opinions. This is to Naomi. No matter who they come from, keep glowing and shining like you always do. You ain't got nothing to prove to anyone. Hashtag team bad. Some fine unity from Sasha Banks there. So we reported this on WrestleTalk the other day. And I do kind of want to talk about it because it's an interesting point. Like Booker T, I think, has phrased stuff very badly. And I also think the subject of who he's talking about is a real bad choice. But like, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts. What do you think on, first of all, just kind of Booker T's comments about Naomi?
I think Booker T's comments of earning your right to get a title shot and this and that, yes, sure. But what's the difference between her and Kofi Kingston? Do you know what I mean? She's with Kofi Kingston. It was 11 years since he was in the business and hasn't had a title shot, and he has earned his right. And Kofi Mania, during WrestleMania weekend, where Wale Mania, Booker T was on stage congratulating Kofi Kingston and encouraging him to go after the title shot. So what's the difference between Kofi Kingston, who's been in the business for so long, has worked his ass off, compared to Naomi, who's been in the business for so long and worked her ass off? And on top of that, during the Royal Rumble, she had the most viral moments of maybe this decade with any athlete ever, man or woman, does not even matter. She broke the viral train with Royal Rumble. I think I said it with Luke on my last appearance on the podcast. WWE would give their soul for just a smidge of that viral sensation that Naomi got with her appearance with Royal Rumble. And the fact that they didn't capitalize on that right before WrestleMania to give her a title shot against Bayley or even Becky, or, I mean, she didn't have to win the Royal Rumble, but yeah, I don't think that there's a difference between that. I think I agree with the subject of picking on Naomi. I don't think that's right. I understand what he's saying, and he has a point. It's just he picked the wrong person to make the example of that point.
Absolutely. I mean, like, just speaking about the Royal Rumble, like some of these numbers are insane. Like a video of her return got 1.2 million views from literally a fan account on Twitter. A tweet garnered 102,000 likes saying, "You're going to make me start watching wrestling because I'm obsessed with whoever this is." Like, she got a huge amount of mainstream appeal. I mean, she got that shot in Saudi Arabia, but that was like nowhere near kind of followed up on. And I think it's not even, I think so many people are getting twisted with, like, you know, the idea of like, you have to be champion. To be well used these days. And it's just like the idea of like, Naomi of course deserves better than singing karaoke on SmackDown. Like, that's the thing. So much of this is not just for a women's wrestling issue. This is, I think, like a men's wrestling issue as well. Like, I think people can get fixated on, oh, it's someone fighting for a championship. Is that utilizing them properly? And it's just like, there are so many mid-card feuds you could have. It's such a deep roster. Like, they have so many people, especially because, you know, they basically given up the brand thing. They can trade back and forth whoever. Like, this, like, just have, like, Naomi's a wrestler, right?
Yeah.
So,
and she's extremely athletic. And I think the whole argument with you have to be a champion, you have to go after a champion to be considered great or have any worthy of any mention of, it's just malarkey is what I like to say. It's just all malarkey. I mean, think about it. Rowdy Piper, considered one of the greatest. He has never held the major title at all, you know? So I just think that whole argument is always, it's always okay for a man sometimes, but when it's a woman, but it's also when it's a woman of color, it's even harder to believe in them or push them or anything like that. And I just think that argument is just, no, that's not it. That ain't it.
Yeah, it's really frustrating because I think Booker T, obviously, as a person of color, you would obviously hope that he would be championing someone, you know, like Naomi, who has not been featured so much. And like you say, there's some very difficult optics there. Like, with the context of, like, you know, you earn your spot. It's just like, it's so frustrating because, like, literally all you have to do is give her something to work with. That's what this hashtag means. It's not meaning like, oh, it doesn't matter what Bayley and Sasha are doing with the, you know, SmackDown Championship picture. Naomi should have it. And we're starting a Twitter movement to get Naomi it's not about that. It's about the idea that you have all of these people and the fans react to you having all of these people and not using them, especially when someone like Naomi garners this huge amount of support from literally just looking amazing. Like, literally down and has such swagger and such poise, and like her gimmick and entrance, her look is so on point. When something like that is so captivating, to then have her disappear into a god-awful segment like SmackDown Karaoke, like, that's what this is about. And I don't understand why kind of. Maybe it's because Booker T obviously he's a correspondent for WWE, and maybe he's doing a bit of kind of fight back for his company. But like, when we've seen fan support turn into legitimate pushes for so many people, like hashtag give divas a chance, right? Did Booker hate that hashtag too? Because that like I understand that WWE gets very defensive about people coming for their booking, but like, when stuff trends on Twitter, that's when things happen. It's something we've seen a lot in 2020. And like, it's such bad PR for Booker and for the company as a whole to kind of push back, especially with someone as talented as Naomi.
Yeah, and they could have done anything with her, especially right after that Royal Rumble appearance. And like you said, she didn't have to go after a title. Why didn't she have a feud with Charlotte Flair? Granted, Charlotte Flair did win the Royal Rumble, but Charlotte Flair is someone on that roster where you can have anyone have a feud with them. She is the person to level anybody up, because Charlotte Flair doesn't need a title run right now. She is the greatest on that roster. I think that what they should have done was have Naomi have a feud with Charlotte, and they could just go toe to toe on the mic with each other. And that's where, if you, I guess, want to give Naomi a chance without a title shot, do that.
Yeah. I think like that's the problem with like Booker. And I think this is a shot. This is a kind of facsimile of a wider point, you know, because everything draws back to Vince McMahon and the brass ring. You know, that is the quote that I think most of this kind of comes back to, is like, well, look, it's not always up to us. It's up to these, you know, guys to go out and get over. And it's always been a weird push-pull. And I want to get your thoughts on this, because like, does Booker T think wrestling's real? I don't like, because you can only do so much with what you're given. Obviously, like, you know, you have people going out like Damien Sandow, for example. Terrible gimmick, Miz stump double, but turns it into something brilliant. And I do understand that, yeah, the guys backstage want everyone to be doing that. But does that mean that it doesn't, like, you still have to kind of give people something to work with? Even then, Damien Sandow was given the same thing every week, constant airtime. Like he was put next to the Miz, who was I think, you know, they given a tag team championship match. Miz was always around the IC championship at that point. Like, yeah. He's given bad stuff and was able to spin it into gold, but he was still on TV. Where's Naomi? And that's the thing, is that you can't then turn around and say, you got to earn your spot if you don't put them on television. It's kind of maddening. And I think
it's almost that like old school mentality, that old school veteran mentality of almost the presentation has to be real, not so much that wrestling is real, where it's just like, yes, in a day and age today, like the presentation of it being real, sure, right. But we live in an age where kayfabe just almost isn't a thing anymore. And I do understand what Booker is trying to say, but he, like I said before, I just think that he picked the wrong person to make an example of what he was saying. Like, yes, you should earn your spot. You should, like in every other business, what you're trying to break into, you have to earn your stripes, you know? But that's the thing, is Naomi has earned her stripes. She is a former champion. She has she's been in the business for so long. She's one of the people that were alongside with the Bellas to transition from the Divas era into the women's evolution. And nobody gives her flowers. And I think that's what the point is that, you know, yes, Booker is right. But for a person like Naomi, who has been in this company for so long and has worked her ass off, and look at her, she's so athletic. And you have so many other people like Lacey Evans, who's like, yeah, but we've seen that character like enough. We've seen that person on the mic before, a blonde woman who patriotic, whatever. Let's do something different, you know? And that's the thing, is that WWE, or when they had the authority figures, they said, well, listen to the WWE universe. You have full control. It's like, when are you going to start? As you know, like, how many hashtags does it take for you to listen to us?
That's the thing. Like, how else are we supposed to communicate with you? Do we write a letter? Do we make a phone call? No, the only thing that matters is when things get traction on Twitter. Exactly. And hashtags is how that happens. It's frustrating when you see, you know, like, I think it all boils down to like that moment where it's just like, we're listening to you. And it's just like, well, then you get angry and cause heat amongst your company when we tell you what we want. It's very, very frustrating. Well, I guess let's finish off this kind of with a little bit of positivity, because ultimately this is about, I think, rather than everyone against Booker T, I think this is rather everyone for Naomi. That's a nicer kind of way of framing it. What would you like to see for Naomi in the future? because I think we are agreed that she deserves better.
Hashtag deserves better. She does. Obviously a title shot, but I think she should go after a Raw title. I think in that realm of WWE, the Raw title is a little bit more important than the SmackDown title because, Raw is the flagship. But like I said before, I'd like to see her go against Charlotte whenever Charlotte does come back, but I just do want her I want her to have better, but I want her to have better with people that are in that top tier of the female roster. That is Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Charlotte. Yes, they are the 4 horsewomen, and I understand how people could be so tired of them, but if you're so tired of them, give Naomi a chance.
I just wanted to win the Royal Rumble. Because that's the thing is I've lost kind of faith that Kofi Kingston will ever win the Royal Rumble. I think his time, unfortunately, has passed, and it was glorious when we had it. Mm-hmm. But that, because he didn't get a Kofi moment in last year's Rumble, but Naomi did. So it feels like we've now fully kind of passed that torch to Naomi. And I just want to see someone who has that gimmick win the Rumble. Actually someone survive using the Kofi Naomi spot 3 or 4 times and then win the whole thing. I think that would be so awesome.
Yeah, and also the story that you can tell of just the major underdog story. You can have that lightning in the bottle Kofi Mania moment again if you do it right, but don't compare it too much to Kofi Mania. Where she has, where you can what was the year where Rey Mysterio won the Royal Rumble and they booked him 2006. Do that with Naomi. And I promise you that it would be amazing. And you could honestly probably do it with anybody who is champion. If you bring up someone like Rhea Ripley, you could do it. If you bring up someone like Io Shirai versus Naomi, first of all, that match alone, amazing. She can literally go toe to toe with anyone. Just give her everything. Give her the Royal Rumble. Give her the tag titles. Give her the Raw Championship. Give her the SmackDown, Money in the Bank, whatever. She's still going to make magic with it. And a lot of people are going to pay attention.
Yeah, you don't even have to frame her as an underdog because, like you say, she's one of the most athletic people on the roster. She's almost a class above most other people. But yeah, we huge fans of Naomi. Hashtag Naomi deserves better. Let's not see her karaoke anymore, please. So we're going to move into our mailbag now. And wonderful patrons at patreon.com/WrestleTalk have sent us their questions highlighted with the term mailbag on the community tab. Please do put mailbag, we will miss them. So I'm just going to go through these. Tawny says, hello, you wonderful people. Ratings for SmackDown and Raw are down, and their main target group is elderly white males. Could it be that these demos are not interested in the fan-acclaimed rise of female wrestling? AEW and NXT do not put such a strong emphasis on their female employees, and their demo is younger, hopefully more open to seeing women fighting instead of sporting bikinis. Their rating is almost pre-pandemic. Can you see a connection? And that person then clarifies, okay, that is a euphemism when it comes to AEW to get better. And no, I don't want WWE to cut women back. I want all people to appreciate the work of people regardless of gender. Yes, I am a female. So I guess what they're saying is can we see a connection between elderly white males not tuning in for women's wrestling and AEW and NXT not having that strong emphasis but bringing in younger fans? That's interesting. I just to kind of clarify, do you think different demos care about women wrestling in a different way? It's quite a confusing question.
Yeah, I think it depends what exactly the demo is.
Yeah, AEW and NXT apparently skew younger. But this person's also claimed that NXT don't front load their female talent as well. And I don't know if I'd agree with that. I think NXT's women's division is strong and featured every week, often kind of multiple times. AEW have taken a lot of flack for their women's division, sure, but I'm not I don't think it's I I don't think that connection's there. I don't necessarily think that AEW and NXT are doing strong on the ratings because of a perceived lack of women's wrestling. And I don't think that the main demo of WWE is turned off by women's wrestling. I just think that the main demo of WWE is a more mainstream crowd that doesn't like pandemic wrestling. And also, like, WWE have so heavily leaned on nostalgia for so long, and like that's completely worn out its kind of welcome. Like, I don't actually think like too much of the makeup of its roster, like from a gender perspective, has much to do. Like, I could be wrong, and like we are interested in always in hearing people's thoughts, but like just generally speaking, Raw and SmackDown are a mess. And that is, I think that generally has more impact on whether people are tuning in than not. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think right now, Raw and SmackDown, and I would also kind of throw in NXT a little bit in there. I think they're blindly throwing darts at a wall at this point when it comes to the storytelling and what they're presenting on TV. I don't think it's a lack of interest with the women. I mean, I also would say with AEW, I think it seems like they're fixing up their women's division, especially now coming out with the women's tournament that they're going to be doing. So I would disagree. I understand the narrative though, where if you are, I understand to have that thought process of, oh, I guess nobody's really watching wrestling and there's no viewership because no one cares about women's wrestling. Well, it's just like, well, that's a valid argument if the majority of the product was women's wrestling, but the majority of the product is everything, and everything is just not very watchable right now. And also, if you are looking for just another wrestling show where you feel like, I don't know, I think Impact is doing a phenomenal job with their women's roster. And Slammiversary was amazing. And that was the first time that I didn't watch Slammiversary, I will admit, but that was the first time that I saw all of Twitter and Instagram be so excited for wrestling again. I think it's, especially nowadays with the pandemic, it's very rare for everyone in the community, whether you're a fan or a creator or even a wrestler, it's hard to, I don't want to say love wrestling, but it's just hard to watch it right now. And there are only a few pay-per-views that I saw a lot of people actually be excited for, and Slammiversary was one of them. So I would suggest watching that if you feel that WWE and AEW is just not doing it for you. But I would disagree. I just think that it's just not watchable right now, and it's okay to admit that.
I think it's a bit of a false equivalency. Like you can see, like, oh, you know, older demo, more women's wrestling, less ratings. Different demo, more consistent ratings, less women's wrestling. It all just feels very surface level. It feels just like, oh, those are like, you could probably make that trend with a lot of different things because of, you know, both shows are so, you know, like AEW, NXT, SmackDown, and Raw, like they are variety shows. So there's a lot of different kind of connections you can make. And I don't necessarily buy that narrative. I think you're right. Duncan J says, do you think that the Universal title feels like a joke championship because they haven't had a real top talent win it? I know Lesnar has won it, but he doesn't turn up a lot. Feels like it needs to be an Orton, Edge, Styles or someone to give it some credibility. What do you think to that?
What happened with Roman Reigns?
Right? Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, the Fiend.
Yeah. I think now it's a little bit more like, I guess, gimmicky, but I would disagree. I don't think the Universal title, then again, it had a pretty rough start at SummerSlam when it was first presented. And I think that also lies in with feeling like it's a little bit like you can't take the title serious. You know, were you in the building? Because I know it was in your backyard. I was. Yeah. I was there.
Me too, my friend. Me and Pacitti were there, and we burst out laughing. Like we couldn't stop the giggles. And I genuinely went through a full roller coaster of emotions. But I started off being just like, that belt sucks. To I feel really bad for Seth and Finn. Like it just wouldn't stop.
It wouldn't. They just went on and on and on. Like, yes, at first I was just like, what the hell is that? I don't think that's a pretty good belt. And then I was trying to watch the match, and I was like, okay, we could calm down. I think we all agree that the belt's very ugly, but let's try to get into the match. And then I remember when I was sitting there and I saw that spot where Seth injured Finn. I was like, oh, okay, maybe we should stop joking around right now. I think something went wrong. But yeah, I just think it was just the way that the Universal title is presented. I think someone needs to hold it so we could maybe take it more serious. And I thought Roman Reigns was doing that for a while during his title run.
Yeah, and I think it's really difficult. Like, I think they've had as wide a variety of champions in the last in its run than the WWE champion. You know, like you've had workhorse champions like Seth Rollins, like, you know, like Drew McIntyre. You've had, you know, part-timer, Goldberg,
Brock,
Brock. Brock obviously has held the WWE championship as well. Like, you know, I don't necessarily feel like. I think you're right. I think that where people get like this narrative of it as a joke title comes from its debut, its color, and the fact that maybe you just haven't had that kind of definitive like title run. I don't know, but like Brock held it for a year, and I'm a huge Brock homer. I unapologetically love everything about the Brock Lesnar thing, like from the fact that he doesn't show up to like, you know, like he's gone most of the time, and you know, his matches are all the same. Like it's my big unpopular wrestling opinion is that I'm a mark for that. So yeah, like I guess, is it because it's called the Universal title, which is a stupid name? I don't know.
It's a pretty stupid name. Yeah. But that's the thing. After SummerSlam, they had Kevin Owens run with it. And it was at the time where Kevin Owens was with Jericho. I mean, that's where I felt my thoughts of, oh my God, this title's very ugly. Oh my God, the Universal title, that's an awful name, was changing. Because again, like we've said before, the title doesn't make the wrestler, the wrestler makes the title. And I felt that Kevin Owens at the time of his run was doing that. And they completely dropped the ball with him when they decided to drop the title to Goldberg, and then Goldberg going to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 33. Again, just, you know, feeling that nostalgia vibe, I guess. But I thought Kevin Owens should have been the one to, I think, change people's minds. And I think he was starting to do that. And then they pulled the plug on him.
Yeah. I just think, yeah, you've had a wide variety. You've had chicken heels, workhorses, part-timers, celebrities, like almost like, yeah, they've done pretty much the same. It's just that the belt is a silly color and got a silly name. Like, I think that's it. Like Braun in a different pandemic world, Braun could have been champion. They could have pulled the trigger on him earlier and we'd all be for it. But it's just like, feels like it just feels like we're waiting for the Fiend again. Let's get the belt back on the Fiend. And So William Skay, by the way, to our lovely patrons, if I mispronounce your name, I'm so sorry. Luke knows all of your names like so much by heart, and I'm not Luke Owen. But one day, maybe I will. William Skay says, you think the Fiend will be more unstoppable when he comes back? Because from what I see in the story is that the Fiend is having Bray try and win, which is why Bray is going back to cult leader, because he's going crazy from all the stress to succeed for him. But he constantly fails, which makes Fiend mad, and thus making him even more unstoppable when coming back. Interesting. Like, I think the Fiend should be unstoppable when he comes back, because I think anything to erase the funk of Oldberg winning the title in Saudi Arabia would be nice.
What a disappointment that was.
That happened this year. Yeah. That happened this year. Isn't that fun to think about? Oh, God, it feels like it was 5 years ago.
I think that the Fiend will come back to be like undefeated. I mean, like he should come back to be stronger. The Fiend was such an exciting character when he first came out. I liked what he was doing with the Funhouse, and then they completely dropped the ball with him with Goldberg. But that was the thing, was when I was excited when that feud with Goldberg was happening, and then it just went to
It sure did. It sure did. Well, that's the thing, is like, I love what William's saying here is I really like this idea of multiple Brays. I do feel like it, there's obviously like competing with AEW on multiple fronts. Now you've got the kind of insane guys with the multiple characters and the increasingly expanding universe, Matt Hardy versus The Fiend.
I mean, Mick Foley made it work with the 3 faces of Foley, so you can make it work.
I think Bray Wyatt is their greatest, is the greatest storyteller they have currently. Yes. Vince McMahon reportedly had little to nothing to do with the swamp fight, which is exciting. It seems like Bray's been given a lot of free reign to craft these things. And yeah, the idea that when, like, because I think, we've had Zowie Wowie, we've had Cult Leader, and now looks like we're getting The Fiend at SummerSlam. I'm all for basically like do-over, jumping back on the Fiend train and having him. The thing is, he doesn't have to be unstoppable, because Bray Wyatt is eminently stoppable. It's just the Fiend is his Megadeth, like in the clutch persona. So like you don't have to have Bray Wyatt be undefeated. You just have to protect the Fiend. And I think what we've seen since Goldberg, they understand that. Like we've barely seen the Fiend since he munched John Cena. We saw him right at the end of the swamp fight, and it feels like we're getting that. And I think, I'm interested in just strapping, like the world's silliest title. I'm interested in strapping that to Bray Wyatt and just giving him 6 months to tell some stories with that belt.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Like, what does the Fiend do with that title? Like, I mean, obviously, like, we had a little bit of that answered before, but like the Fiend is a more interesting character now. I think we've had more interesting kind of like the Funhouse proved how deep this well of imagination goes, and I want to see what he does with the Universal title now. And I'm really, really keen on it. Flame Inc. Live says, if you had to choose one female villain as the hottest villain from your childhood, who would it be, and explain why it's Carmen Sandiego? I never saw where in the world is Carmen Sandiego. I understand something about a red hat, but that's about it. No, I never really saw it. I'm trying to think, because like my big like kind of cartoon crush was April O'Neil from the Turtles. She's not a villain. I'm trying to think of not Rita Repulsa from Power Rangers. She wasn't my type.
See, I would have to go Poison Ivy from the animated Batman series.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Harley from the animated. Our crushes would get along very well. There's something about that massive hammer. I don't know what it says. Anyway, Nick Corvello says, I hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well, Nick. I originally had a movie-related question in mind, but Slammiversary was so effing bonkers. Got to talk about that instead. Overall, I enjoyed the show a lot, but I'm concerned about how much of the booking was hot-shotting, especially 2 of the match results, the X Division title match and the Knockouts title match. Felt like Willie Mack should have held the title for longer, and he didn't get a fair enough shake at a good reign. Same for Jordynne Grace, as I felt there was life left in her reign as well. While I like Deonna Purrazzo, she has the image of an ex-WWE talent who got pushed straight to a title program and got the title in her first month. In my opinion, that reeks of lol TNA booking and sends a negative message to the women in the back who have stayed with Impact for so long. I'm willing to see whatever happens this coming Tuesday may make those concerns obsolete, but I would still like your opinion on the 2 match results regardless. What are your thoughts? Alex, do you want to expand upon your thoughts from earlier?
I agree with the Knockouts division with that result. It did almost feel like they just gave it to her because she came from WWE. I do agree that I think Jordynne Grace should have had the title a little bit longer, I disagree with Chris Bay, though. I think Chris Bay is a fantastic wrestler. I think it is about time that he's a champion, especially on TV. But I think with the Knockouts division, I think that's a good feud right there. Let's start that off. You know, where Deanna came from NXT, and won the title. Let's see her versus Jordynne Grace for a while, because the Jordynne Grace for me was a believable champion compared to Deanna. So I think those two women going back and forth, I'd like to see that. I think sometimes when going to Willie Mack, I understand the thought of, he should have held the title longer and this and that. And I do understand just that title, just that thought alone. But it's just like, yeah, but now he can go after another title or go after a better feud or have a good feud with Chris Bay and just go back and forth. Slammiversary was amazing. It was interesting. Overall, the whole show was interesting, but those two matches were good. I agree with the Chris Bay result. I don't agree with the other result. What do you think?
I can understand where people are coming from, especially because you had that main event where it could have gone to Mystery Person, it could have gone to Rich Swann, could have gone to like lots of different people, but they stuck with Eddie Edwards, who is like an Impact lifer. And it felt like that was a sort of like, this is a reward for your loyalty and dependability, which is something that I'm like a lot of people, especially when they are kind of fans of that promotion, who are kind of like a little bit shirty about like all of this mainstream attention suddenly coming to their brand from the outside, being just like, people who've been here long and put in the work suddenly get passed over. I do get that, but for a lot of people, Slammiversary was the first Impact pay-per-view they've ordered in a long time, and let's be honest, Impact, like they drew a lot of that attention with who's going to show up from WWE. That is very dyed in the wool, total non-stop action booking. Absolutely. But it's just like, you've got to kind of give, like, you're going to get a lot of fresh eyes on the product. And I think it's smart. You don't want to do it with everybody. Absolutely. You want to keep some of the titles the same, but you need to maybe do one big change with someone that people recognize to get them coming back the next week. I understand, like, maybe they could have done that with the top championship. And because I like Big Mama Pump has been on like something of a run, but like who's to say? Like, it was a great match. So if they have another great match, doesn't that serve both women enough? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and also like Heath Slater came back and Heath Slater showed up. Gallows and Anderson showed up, and yet the next day I saw everyone talking about Chris Bay winning. Where yes, we drew the eyes to Slammiversary with these appearances of, oh my gosh, this ex WWE star came out and this and that, but everyone was talking about that Willie Mack and Chris Bay match. So it's just like, yes, I understand. Like, again, going to what you were saying, you have to bring the eyes, and then you have to make them stay. And I think with those two matches, people wanted to tune in the next time to see what was going to happen. And that's the whole point, right? That's TV, baby.
That's how it works.
That's TV.
That's TV, baby. Get it on a t-shirt. Chris Gardner says, WrestleTalk's content's been a huge help to me personally over the last couple of months. But I'd like to know, what wrestling story just makes you feel really happy, feel good? Doesn't have to be a huge title win or anything. Just something that makes you smile, even when you don't feel like it. That's a really interesting story. Like for me, it's it's Kevin Owens' son pinning Excalibur. His 6-month-old son, Owen Owens, as he would be known under kayfabe, Owenstein, after 3 package pile drivers, after Excalibur, talk smack about Kevin Owens' son, he gave him 3 package pile drivers and placed Owen on top of Excalibur while Generico counted the pin, and everyone lost their mind. And it's it builds in kind of warmth for me, because not only do I like the children pinning wrestlers, like Maxwell, that's my jam. I will always lose my mind for children pinning wrestlers. But it's the fact that he will grow up, and at some point his dad will show him like that footage, and he will understand it. And he'll understand it differently as he grows up. You know, like, oh, I actually did that, to, oh, that's how wrestling works and that's funny, to, oh, that's one of daddy's friends, but they all got together to make me feel like. There's so many different levels of appreciation that Owen will have for that stunning victory. Like that's one that always, like, that's a small wrestling story that always warms my cockles. What about you? Anything that kind of brings to mind?
The one story that just always brings a smile to my face, and I feel bad, is all the times Kota Ibushi got lost in that airport coming to America. I don't know why. I remember it was All In weekend. I don't remember if we were actually at the event or it was the next day, but it was just reported everywhere on Twitter, and even like word of mouth, that Kota Ibushi was just lost in O'Hare and someone had to get him. And I remember, I think it was the next day, or maybe it was the day before. I don't remember, but I remember I was in StarCast and someone's like, I'm going to go drive to O'Hare and look for Kota Ibushi.
Like a Where's Wally picture. It's just like he's here somewhere.
That's the one that just always puts a smile on my face, and I feel bad because I'm sure he was just confused and lost.
It's just, it's like Kota Ibushi has created this wonderful aura around himself, where he's one of the best wrestlers to have ever lived, but he's also kind of like, done some of the wackiest stuff in DDT, and then just the point of him getting like lost around an airport is so funny. It's like texting Kenny asking if you can help.
Where do I go? Yeah.
That's really sweet. Matthew M. Muldoon says, hey guys, really enjoying the Adam Pearson guest appearance last week. I am an American, and as you know, COVID is still running wild, brother. The city of Philadelphia, historically great wrestling town, just banned live audience events till March 2021. With that being said, it is becoming very much a regional issue. And we could have the real possibility of the southern cities allowing crowds and northern cities banning them. If AEW and WWE go live in the same general region week after week, do you think it will hurt the product overall? With ratings already slipping, if people see lethargic, half-empty crowds every week, it's almost counterproductive. Do you think in that scenario, it's better for each to stay behind closed doors? Thanks as always, and take care. I mean, I am very, very cautious, like just generally, especially about COVID. I don't want to see live events come back until the vaccine. Really, that's just my personal standpoint. And I realize that I'm not taking into account all the people whose livelihoods depend on businesses staying afloat. I get that. But for me, I am not going to anything like a live event or a concert. Like I've seen some socially distanced concerts where basically you get like a little hexagon in on a bit of lawn, and you have to stay within it, and they're all like apart from each other. You get like a little table, you could order drinks, and you have like a very prim and proper little concert. But like, no, I don't want to see it. I don't want to have people be funneled in and out of arenas through the same security scanners. I don't want to see them walking past ticket collectors. I don't want to see all of this stuff until there is a workable vaccine. And if it's just a case of like certain regions do it, yeah, they probably will kill the towns. Or worse, either they kill the towns or just like attendance drops and drops and drops because the same people aren't going to pay every single week to see Raw. Mm-hmm. Worse, people travel to see live wrestling, and that's worse, isn't it? So like I don't know how you feel about kind of like live events and stuff, and I'm certainly not saying that mine is the only way to be, but I don't want to see live wrestling with proper crowds until you've got either a vaccine or like proven scientific treatment, and that may be a long time.
I'm on the same boat as you. I'm in the same boat as you. I live in New York City, one of the biggest cities, and I don't think that we should have live events for another year or two. I mean, listen, I was on the subway the other day, and we're in phase 4, and I had an anxiety attack being on the subway because there was just so many people around me that were just not social distancing. And it wasn't because they didn't want to, it was because they couldn't, because it was rush hour.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say like, oh, maybe I should have just taken an Uber, where it's like, no, we just should not be open because there is no vaccine, and not that many people are wearing masks. Not that many people are taking the precautions. And it just should not happen. The crowd just should not happen. I get the livelihood of the workers, and not only with the wrestlers, but the people behind the scenes, with the cameramen and the production crew, the makeup, crew. I get that they can't just not go to work, but if there's a way to avoid the massive spread, then let's not have fans go to the shows. And like you said, there are fans that travel for shows. There's a promotion out here at GCW. They had a show in Indianapolis, and there were fans who traveled for that show. And I have not heard of anybody getting COVID. Granted, I don't think anybody would actually admit that they got COVID after attending that show stupidly, but I just think right now is just not the time to have the live crowds. I get it. We all miss wrestling. We all miss going to concerts and music and all that's good stuff. Going to bars, amazing. But we just cannot do it right now. And luckily for us, we do have the technology to still watch wrestling from a distance, from the comfort of our own homes, and keeping each other safe. So I just don't think that it should come back.
No, I went on a 2-hour round trip cycle trip at the weekend because the guy who won our Quizlemania trophy for winning the Jam That Jam giveaway, I wanted to go for a long cycle, so I just thought, I sod it. I'll just he lives in South London, 8 or so miles away. I'll just go to him and come back. And then after that there was a pub near my place, and I was I've never wanted a pint more in my life than cycling there and back over for 2 hours. Me and my partner, we went to it, and they had precautions. They had some you had to sign in, give your name and address and your email. You had to do your hands. You had to go and sit outside. Even so, my pint was brought to me by someone who wasn't wearing a mask, and I was just I didn't enjoy that pint, and it was too much anxiety, and I'm not going back. And I understand that people want these things to come back so much that they will put up with things, but it's just even then, even when you almost every precaution is taken, there was just one final hurdle one final box that wasn't ticked, and it kind of I almost had a little anxiety issue there. And it's it sucks, but the realistic thing is, do you hunker down for a year now, or does this process spread out for 2-3 years, for however long it takes to get a vaccine in play? And it might be a while. Who knows? On to something hopefully lighter. The Rebel Heart, Dylan from Cork, says, top of the afternoon to you folks. 2 questions this week, one from myself and one from herself, Aisling. Mine, I absolutely love Slammiversary. Seeing Motor City Machine Guns gave me an unexpected level of nostalgia, and I loved how they debuted all their new styles uniquely. I didn't realize how much I missed seeing Eric Young on my screen. With the buzz surrounding Impact at the moment, could you see them picking up a few more free agents every season release? The AEW's roster doesn't need any more major signings for the time being, and Impact are a very attractive brand at the moment. We'll start with that one, then we'll move on to Ashton's question. Do you want to see? I mean, it is tricky. I think everyone, when people leave WWE, some fans are quite tribalistic. No, they have to go here. No, they have to go here. And I think just for the sake of seeing something unexpected, where do you think someone like Rusev would be a bigger star? AEW or Impact? And it's it's interesting. I'm really glad that Impact is not it's not a dirty word. As TNA, there was had its great moment, its great time, but then TNA has gone through periods of being a dirty word, really. Someone else lowering themselves to TNA. But Impact's an exciting brand right now, right this second. And I absolutely if you're hot, you do what you do to stay hot. And I think bringing in someone like Rusev and like smashing them over, having him crush Eddie Edwards. I think that is a really exciting thing. I don't know, like what do you think?
I think when it comes, see, I feel two ways. I was the person where I was like, oh, Gallows and Anderson go straight to New Japan, don't look back. And then they showed up to Impact and they changed my mind. I was like, oh wait, that actually sounds like a pretty good idea. And I think, yeah, there is a possibility, like, they probably should add a little bit more names, but I think that right now, let's just settle, let's just see what you've got. My thing with Rusev, I think he could be a star anywhere he goes, in AEW or Impact. And this may be going back to the last question that we were asked, but my whole thing is with Rusev, or people like Rusev, he was so hot with the Rusev Day like that was just so massive. In my fantasy, how I would book it.
Hey now, hey, gimmick infringement. Hey.
But the way I would do it, if there was a vaccine and there was an actual day where, hey, we are safe by December or January to actually have live shows, that's where I would set up like, Rusev, you're coming back now. Because that's how I feel like if you brought Rusev back with the live crowd, that's a bit, and see, it goes back to like, oh, I want live crowds again. But I agree. I think wherever Rusev goes, he will be a big star. And I think with some of the free agents right now, they did a good job of keeping their chins up and knowing that there is hope for their future in this business. And I want to see them succeed anywhere. I think I learned my lesson when I wanted Gallows and Anderson to go to New Japan. I don't want to pick a certain company for them to go. I think like it's and that also just depends who it is. Cause someone like Mike Bennett, like, he could go to Impact and he could go to AEW, but I think with someone like him, it's just like, see, you have to use him a certain way for him to go over. Where Rusev is like, throw him anywhere, he'll go over, no matter what.
I agree. Like, I think like settle is a really interesting way of looking at it, because I think that AEW, I think probably does need to settle, because it's done such a good job of building up its roster, and like there are still so many people on that roster who, like, especially when you talk about like the different divisions, the hierarchy of divisions and the championships, like I think there are some really great stories to tell. Obviously, you got FTR just arrived. You still got Lance Archer. Like you've got like Cody's Open Challenge is doing wonderful things. Like Sonny Kiss, like Paul Cabana is doing some really cool stuff with Dark Order. Like these are characters that started, on Dark and have now come onto the main roster of AEW and are developing. And like, yeah, there's a richness to the depth of AEW's roster. Like, you're seeing Kenny Omega starting rumors abound about Cody and the potential 4 Horsemen. I think that is stuff that kind of, you don't need someone like Rusev coming in and getting lost in the shuffle because you're not ready to put to smash him over. Whereas Impact, with this newfound kind of like spike in interest, it does feel like they are in sort of a little bit of a hard reboot mode. Whereas, maybe a flurry of new guys just to kind of establish some really cool like divisions and just like keep that momentum going. Maybe that's for the better. And like, it's people shouldn't view it as like a demotion from AEW, because these are different promotions in different stages of their life. And I think Impact is enjoying like a little bit of a renaissance. And I think, funnel some more guys and just like lightning bolt charge it.
Yeah.
Ashling says, recently watched the Evolution show, thought it was very good. When do you think they'll do another one? And what dream matches would you like to see on it?
Okay.
All right. Roll up the sleeve.
All right. I want an Evolution 2 to come back with a crowd because I want to be at Evolution 2 because I was at the first one. But when should they have an Evolution? I think they should have had it last year. I think the time has passed for them to have an Evolution 2. To have an Evolution 2. Evolution was the most successful pay-per-view of 2018. And they had the best match of the year, which was Charlotte versus Becky. Why wasn't that proved? And also, that is within the same year that they had the first Women's Royal Rumble and main evented that pay-per-view. Why didn't we capitalize on that? Why didn't we? I mean, they did essentially with the first women's main event at WrestleMania, but there should have been more. There should have been an Evolution right after that when we had Becky with both the titles. Ronda went away, so you actually had the opportunity to promote the rest of the women on your roster even more. You had more talent on NXT. You had so many shining stars. At that point, the Iconics won the tag team titles. You could have done so many things with them, but you didn't. And at that point, the Bellas were not pregnant, so you could have had the Iconics versus the Bellas, you know? Like, we could have done so much. And now we want to have the conversation of Evolution 2 during a pandemic. You know, like, it's just so like, hopefully it happens soon. My dream match at Evolution is Charlotte versus Bianca Belair. I think that should be the main event. I think the Iconics should gain the title. I think the Bayley and Sasha versus the Iconics, that's a good tag match right there. If we're going to bring back any veterans, I mean, you're going to have to pull the trigger on Trish Stratus versus Sasha Banks already. Let's do that. There's so many dream matches I can go on. But what do you think, Adam?
I agree. I want to see it with fans, but I also don't want to wait a year to see it. Like that's the difficult thing. I don't want to give WWE an opportunity to say like, oh, people don't care about Evolution anymore. Look at these numbers. When in fact, that's because people don't care about wrestling in a pandemic with people banging the plastic glass every 2 seconds.
With no mask.
With no mask. I think like I do really, really, really want to see it. Like ultimately, like I think in terms of dream matches that we haven't had yet, I hope Becky is coming back, and I do really want to see Becky Ronda one-on-one. That is, I think, still like in terms of like the actual story I want to see told is like them one-on-one. Like I still want to see the 4 horsewomen fatal 4-way, please.
Yeah, MMA versus WWE 4 horsewomen. I still want to see that. That would be a great Evolution main event too. Yeah.
If only Shayna Baszler was. How did that happen? I don't understand. I think there are so many. I do think Evolution's a really fun place to kind of bring back women from yesteryear. I think Molly Holly going with anyone, she's phenomenal.
Yes.
Like Molly Holly versus Charlotte would be incredible. Like, yes.
Molly Holly versus Ruby Riott would be incredible. Molly Holly versus Bianca Belair would be incredible. Molly Holly versus Becky Lynch. Molly Holly versus Sasha Banks. Molly Holly versus Bayley. You could put her in the ring with anybody. I am also a huge Molly Holly fan, so I'm very happy that you said that.
Well, that's the thing is like I think have we had Trish versus Alexa? Have we had that match yet?
We haven't had that match yet. I mean, don't know.
I did that for me is like it's a very simplistic view of Alexa is Trish. I get that you know they kind of look like, but they've just had that they both had that sort of renaissance of look how beautiful this valet for a tag team is. Oh my God, they've become this amazing worker and a true icon of their division. Like, you know, from Buddy Murphy, from Blake and Murphy and TNA to Trish and Alexa Bliss, I think there's a hell. I also really want to see heel Alexa Bliss again. And I think her versus Trish would be kind of like stepping out of Trish's shadow would be a really fun story for that. There are so many dream matches we could go on, but we should press on. Marcel Dura says, I haven't seen you making up your mind about my cast of Street Fighter with wrestlers yet, so I thought I'd give you my idea of the casting. I'd love to hear you do some recast additions or giving feedback. So this is someone has put together a Street Fighter cast with wrestlers, and we'll see if there's any that we want to swap out. So Ryu is Hiroshi Tanahashi. Nice.
Ooh, good one.
Ken is Dolph Ziggler. Especially with that hair. Zangief, Rusev, very nice. Chun-Li, Xia Li. Okay, yeah, I mean, fair enough. They do, yeah. Blanca, Bray Wyatt. DJ, Elijah Burke. Bison, M. Bison, John Cena. That's the heel turn we need. Balrog, Bobby Lashley. Nice. Vega, Tyler Breeze, covering up that. I would have thought Vega surely dashing Cody Rhodes with the face mask would be nice.
I would have gone with Fandango.
Nice. Dalsim, Ricochet. Interesting. I mean, they are both look like they're made out of springs. Cammy, Alexa Bliss. I mean, if you're talking about a ponytailed ass kicking wrestler, you've got Bianca Belair standing there. And that's my take on the question. Hope you all stay safe, and one day I'll force you to compare Waldmeister and apples, and you'll taste the difference. Manic laughter emoji. What's Waldmeister? Waldmeister? Is that an American thing? I don't know.
I was going to ask, is that a British thing?
No, I think that's a really solid list. Yeah, I think the only ones I would swap out is I would like to see Bianca Belair as Cammy. I think that would be nice. Are there any that you would like to swap out?
No, I would agree. I would swap out Cammy with the Bianca Belair. That's actually a funny question because I do that on my regular time. I compare wrestlers to Marvel characters. Yesterday I came up with Doctor Strange would be Aleister Black.
Very, very nice. I had one because this was a list I worked for What Culture years back, which is wrestlers and their Marvel counterparts. And the one I was most proud of was that Brock Lesnar is the Hulk, but Paul Heyman is Bruce Banner. Ooh. So basically, Paul Heyman appears and you know that something bad is going to go down because Paul Heyman's around, and then you rough Paul Heyman up and then suddenly the Hulk appears as sort of like his unstoppable backup.
That's a good one.
Philip O'Reilly says, hi, Luke, and very welcome guest. Wrong on only one count. First ever mailbag question. I know everyone hates the invasion, but for me, when I started watching wrestling, so I didn't have the expectations everyone had. I really enjoyed it, especially the Angle Austin feud and Rock versus Y2J feud. Two key WWE versus WCW feuds you've named right there. Was there anything from the invasion you actually liked? P.S. My son Liam is having his birthday, turning 8. Can I have a happy birthday shout? He loves you and Ollie. I assume he's talking about Luke there, so bad luck, 8-year-old. And Laurie scares Liam. Laurie scares Liam. Well, I liked the invasion pay-per-view. Call me a damned fool, and many have and will. But it was a huge drop ball. But I'm like Philip here. I started watching wrestling in 2000. So 2001, I had no idea what WCW was. I only had room in my tiny little child head for WWE. I believed that Rhino was the pinnacle of, the invasion. It's like, oh God, RVD or DDP. He stalked Undertaker's wife.
Uh-huh.
He's the greatest villain alive. I didn't have the expectation of like Sting versus The Undertaker. I didn't have Goldberg versus Steve Austin in my mind. So when the invasion pay-per-view happened, I was pumped for it. I couldn't wait. I don't know about you. Were you too much of a fan to truly enjoy the invasion, or did you have any guilty pleasures?
I was a bit maybe too young. I mean, like I watched Invasion when it happened, but with WCW, I knew it was another show, but I never paid attention to it. I have older brothers, and they were the ones going back and forth from one room to another to watch it at the same time, and I just stayed in the living room like, I'm just gonna watch WWE. So I didn't know what to expect with the Invasion pay-per-view. When I watched it when I was younger, I very much enjoyed it, and then watching it back now in my 20s, I see how, like, now knowing like what WCW was, what WWE was at the time with the Monday Night Wars, I can see what people were expecting with the Invasion, and the execution was just not it. But I still enjoyed it. I don't have really much of a problem with it.
I think it's, again, like, you know, if you're not aware of like if you know, we know everything about wrestling and all the dirt sheets and blah blah blah, like that's where we currently are, we'd be horrendously disappointed by it. But if you're just a little tiny young WWE mark like I was, like their editing department was on point. It made it seem like the world was coming to an end. It was really exciting. Like Survivor Series was unbelievably good. Yeah, it ended up with Stone Cold versus The Rock, which is a pretty clear message of how the whole Invasion thing went when Stone Cold versus The Rock is your main event, the angle. But like, why not? That's exciting. Callum says, hey, Luke, another fantastic guest. Fine. When The Fiend debuted last year, I was shocked the next day that my non-wrestling fans / friends were talking to me about how cool it is. So my question for you guys is there a moment that happened in wrestling that your non-wrestling fans your non-wrestling fan friends caught on to?
Naomi.
There you go.
The Royal Rumble. Naomi at the Royal Rumble. The Fiend. I also got a few people that were excited about The Fiend. Also Ronda Rousey when she came, but then that was just, of course, everyone knew who Ronda Rousey was. I'd say that's about it, but definitely for sure the most attention from all of my friends who are not wrestling fans, was Naomi, because they sent me videos. They're like, who is this woman and where can I watch her all the time? And I was like, here you go. Here's all the information that you need about her. So yeah, it was definitely Naomi for me.
Perfect. For me, like whenever The Rock comes back, like, because obviously like the trilogy, like he was wrestling Cena, that was when I got people like my movie friends like asking me just like, should I try and watch this match? Is this going to be fun? And I was like, you know, before WrestleMania 20, I was like, absolutely watch this match. It's going to be exciting as hell. WrestleMania 29, no, you're fine. Don't worry about it. But yeah, like, generally, like The Rock, like it's a shame. It's why they lean on him, because he's that big a deal. But like he brings them eyes to the product. So Flev Doran says, hello, Luke and guest. This is more of a response to the last super chat from the Raw Review live stream from Tudor. Yes, you have a Romanian who supports you. He super chatted you guys for over a year. He was the first co-winner of Wrestle League, and he met you at the Four Quarters during the Royal Quest meetup. That person is me, by the way, if you didn't guess. There's no offense or anything. Just want to make that fact clear. Love you all. Oh, that's delightful. I've got no idea. I'm so sorry. You picked the wrong host to have this wonderful heartwarming story. I have no idea about any of this, but good job, buddy. Good job. I will pass on this message, I promise. That's real sad. Sorry, guys. Adam Pearson says, hey, guys, this is my first mailbag question. My name is Adam Pearson, not to be confused with the other Adam Pearson you had on your podcast, which was a great one, by the way. I'm not too sure if you had this question before, but what do you think is the match that over-delivered the most of all time? For me, I have to go with Roman Reigns versus The Big Show at Extreme Rules. In my opinion, a match that had no right to be anything special because of bad booking of Reigns at the time, but far exceeded expectation for me as a solid 8 out of 10 match. Looking forward to hearing your suggestions. So for me, in terms of a match that over-delivered comparing to what I was expecting, like, it's the Firefly Funhouse. Like I go on about it a lot. It's because I'm always going to be like my Amdram wrestling. It's what I like. I like honestly, take all the moves out. I'm fine. I'm cool with just like two guys sitting in chairs and monologuing a story that means something at each other. It's like the South Park episode. I care more about the drama. But like the idea of the Firefly Funhouse was so potentially bollocks because of like, what the Fiend had been through. Not only with Goldberg, but like years before at WrestleMania versus John Cena again, like people were genuinely worried John Cena was going to come back and like, well, the Fiend's dead, so we might as well have him beat him anyway. Get a big babyface pop. But what they created over-delivered to the point where it genuinely became one of my favorite WrestleMania time. And I will never stop going on about it. I've watched it like 10 times. I love it. But I would over deliver even if I had high hopes, but I had low hopes. I had kind of like eye for an eye hopes, being just like, what's this gonna be? But no, over delivered massively. What about yourself?
I would say it was NXT takeover in Philadelphia, Andrade versus Johnny Gargano.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, because at the time, like I have to admit, I don't think I ever will be a Gargano fan. I appreciate him. I respect him. He's great, but he just isn't for me. So going into that match and also with Andrade, I didn't know too much about him. So I just thought it was a throwaway championship match going into it. And also that weekend, I didn't really care. I just was there for the Women's Royal Rumble. So I went and that match blew my mind. I mean, I was paying attention to the story. I knew what was coming with Selena and Candice, and then with Ciampa. Like, that match did not have to go so hard. Like, it just the near falls in that match was just outstanding. The feud with like I said, Selena and Candice, and getting involved in the match, and then it just running away, and then it still had enough time. It was just so long. I can't even get my words right. It was just so good. And then at the very end, you had Ciampa come out with that iconic moment, just hitting Gargano with the crutch. Just that match did not have to be that good, but yeah. It was. That match was just, I'd say that match is probably in the top 10 for me.
Especially when you consider that not only had like Andrade beaten Drew McIntyre very shockingly, like no one was expecting that, and they were just like, oh, transitional champion to get it onto another babyface. But also, like, they'd had that match like 2 or 3 takeovers earlier. Like immediately after Takeover Chicago, I think the first takeover match that Johnny Gargano had was against Andrade, and that ended with like t-shirt distraction, and it never really went that hard. It was like, what, 12 minutes, maybe something like that. And you just didn't realize like the untapped potential that was there. I'm going to watch that match later. I haven't seen that match in such a long time. Thank you very much, Alex, Queen of the Ring.
Let me know what you think of it.
Will do. Christopher Howell says, hello, gents. I've recently become a backer for the first time because after everything you've done throughout this crazy time in all of our lives, you deserve it. You deserve it. I'd also like to add that the return of Adam's bookings to PFK have been a particular joy for me, and it recently gave me an idea. Fantasy booking warfare, AEW versus WWE. Not an angle or storyline, but a super card of inter-brand dream matches. The idea would be either 2 or more of you create a dream card of AEW versus WWE matches, and the fans vote which card they like the most. And then the winner can have a video where they fantasy book their card from top to bottom, going through the builds to matches, deciding the winners. The rules are you can use any stars from the current rosters, including injured or inactive, but only if they are contracted to their respective companies. It is fantasy after all. No retired wrestlers. The buck's got to stop somewhere. The show could be 1 night or 2, but no more than that. Cheers, lads. Keep up the amazing work and jam that jam. So I love that idea. I will absolutely pitch it to the guys. But obviously, while you're here, Alex, how about we just pitch a main event each? and see who's got. So it has to be AEW versus WWE on the Invasion pay-per-view, and you can use anyone.
For the main event?
For the main event.
I mean, easily, you kind of have to start off with throw out Kenny Omega versus AJ Styles, both from New Japan now respectfully representing their promotions that they're in. Although we've probably seen it, it's interesting how they would handle that.
Do you know what mine is? Mine's going to get me some stick. Because my first thought was Kenny Omega versus Daniel Bryan. But nope, my main event for AEW versus WWE, I want Cody versus Triple H. I want Cody Rhodes versus Triple H. Just both of them bleeding everywhere. Sledgehammers versus sledgehammers. Like all of Cody's kind of like rage, all of Triple H's kind of like kind of that kind of corporate, like coming out in a suit, Brandy and Steph having a thing on the outside. It's not work rate city. I get that. But the idea of it just fills me with glee.
You just want the smoke. That's all you want when you're booking that. But yeah, that would be, that's money right there.
The entrances would be like half the show, probably. That's mine. What about yourself? I've got to nail you down for one match.
There's so many in both rosters. I want to see Butcher and the Blade versus New Day, and I also would be interested to see Nyla Rose versus Io Shirai.
Oh, that would be a match. That'd be so good. So Marcus Campbell says, hello, WrestleTalk. Since Slammiversary is behind us, which return debut surprised you the most? For me, it was the return of the Motor City Machine Guns, as I didn't see it coming. Plus, it was a very welcome addition to their tag division. Keep on jamming that jam. Always. Oh my God, that t-shirt's done such wonders for us. Thank you. Please buy a t-shirt for Jam That Jam, everybody. WrestleTalkmerch.com. For me, like in terms of because there are so many you expecting, I don't think anyone was surprised to see EC3. I was surprised to see Heath Slater because I obviously when he came back, there was a lot of kind of animosity between him and AEW. Mm-hmm. Cody said flat out no, which was wow, okay, what's happening there? So it's kind of to see him arrive and be made a big deal of, that's cool. Yeah. In terms of most surprising, it was Motor City Machine Guns. What? I had no idea. All the other hype around all the other people, I had no idea those guys were coming back.
Yeah, it was Motor City Machine Guns for me. I wasn't watching, but everyone was just going off on Twitter and was like, why am I not watching this right now? Oh no! Motor City Machine Guns. And again, like I said, Gallows and Anderson showing up at Impact. I was surprised. It seemed like they were going to go to Japan. Yeah.
So Peter Mullen says, I've been thinking about the awkwardness that people are feeling towards the US title division and all of its minority wrestlers. I've studied this sort of thing as part of my degree and have a quick explanation of why it feels weird and how it could be better. I've included an image that can help you visualize this. Hang on a second. Let me just load that image up because I did add it to the back end. Where are you? Talk amongst yourselves. We've got. Oh, I do have it somewhere. I'm a very bad host. I'm no Luke Owens, and I'll never be Luke Owen.
It's okay. We forgive you.
That's fine. I don't actually have it. Oh no, I can't find it because I'm logged out of the Patreon. So it was it was basically a different example of what's the difference between sort of inclusion, tolerance, segregation, and it's sort of and it was used to kind of dots in a petri dish, and how WWE, instead of doing inclusion, which is basically everyone is part, not assimilation, so everyone is kind of part of the roster, they seem to have lumped all of their kind of people of color, especially in the men's division, into one scene, which is the kind of US and with centered around MVP. I believe is what they're trying to get at. Let's get that question back up. What society should aim for is inclusion of people leading to harmonious assimilation of people and minorities on the outside of society into the greater whole. It's what we should all be striving for, not least of all, because having a diverse range of thoughts, views, backgrounds makes us stronger as a whole. What WWE has done, and what I believe is an honest attempt at something positive, is integration. The minority athletes are part of the show, but it's noticeably their part of the show. If this continues, it leads to segregation, with the audience associating them as being other to the rest of the people on the show. This is why it feels off. To sort this out, this storyline needs to include other groups of people. Bobby Lashley's a great example. Yes, he's part of MVP's group, but he's also his own man feuding for the title. This individualization where they're their own people, not just ethnicity, needs to happen with the other members to end the weirdness. I just really hope this story leads to better things. What do you think about kind of the state of that division in Raw at the moment? Is that something that strikes you as kind of uneasy, or is it something that maybe we are putting onto it from the outside?
Yeah, that division makes me cringe, to be completely honest, because it just seems like, I'm going to be the one to say it. You have Andrade, Rey Mysterio, and I'll use those two for example. Two amazing wrestlers, and they're both Latino, and they are Mexican, and you have them fighting over a United States title, and your company supports Trump. Like that, I don't really need to draw the lines any further than that. That alone just makes me cringe. And you have them go after the title every single week, almost putting them in a box. And now, I understand Rey Mysterio has his feud with Seth Rollins now, blah, 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 blah. But in that time, like, it just always made me cringe to watch a United States match, because it just seemed like they didn't know what to do, and they put all the Hispanic people together. It's just like, well, you guys could do something together. We just know that you're good, and just fight each other. Or you can have Andrade. You should have had Andrade versus Seth Rollins way before, during that time. It's weird. It's weird. I feel like with the United States title, first of all, the design is awful. Let's start there.
The champion belt.
Yes, it's god awful. And it's again going, I guess, to the whole point of this whole podcast is where WWE doesn't know what to do with their wrestlers who are of color, of any color. They don't know what to do with them. And I think that's where lies hiring people of color for your writer's room, for your producing anywhere. And it's just not happening. I have so many feelings about the United States division, and I don't mean to make it a bit of an uncomfortable conversation, but it's a conversation that is necessary because of what's going on right now in our times.
It's something that WWE has always done. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is like, it's just the fact that they're still doing it. Mm-hmm. It's like, like back to the Attitude Era, Kai and Tai, there's all the Japanese guys. There you are. They're in a stable. Of course they are. Why? Because they're all Japanese. They all know each other. Or they're all Chinese, as Jerry Lawler used to say. Then you have,
Nation of Domination, right?
Nation of Domination.
They put them all together, and even to have Savio Vega, it's like, well, you seem like you're Puerto Rican, but you just look black, so let's just put you in this. Like, it's just, they don't know what to do because they don't know how, because they don't relate. That's why. That's why.
They have, and like, there's elements of this still happening to this day, which is like the Kabuki Warriors. Like, they're both from Japan. They're friends. And it's just like, well, yeah, I mean, like, you do have like some amazing wrestlers, and obviously like it's better than it used to be. But then you do see the same, like the same people of color wrestling each other every single week on Raw. And it's just like, it's just like it's just why does he have to have this uncomfortability? Like, why do we have to feel this way? Like when your roster is so stacked, and there was this amazing graphic that went out a few weeks ago, back when New Day were champions, being just like the majority of WWE's champions right now are people of color, which is fantastic. But like there is still that thing where it's just like people of certain races are just fighting each other. Mm-hmm. It's not as endemic a problem as it used to be. No, right. I absolutely. But it is still like we're still talking about it.
Exactly.
So evidently, like,
and when they came out with that graphic, it was just like, oh, please applaud us for now having the majority of champions as people of color. It's like, yeah, it's 2020. You've taken this long to do it. Well, and not only to only speak on the actual feuds in wrestling, let's go back to the Kabuki Warriors. Just last year, they had a mishap with their graphic promoting Kairi Sane's Twitter account, and they put Io Shirai instead. Come on. That alone just says enough for me.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, you don't, it makes it feel like it's a very, very white creative team, when it's just be like, well, obviously, like, so like these guys are going to team. We're going to team up Cedric Alexander and Ricochet. Why are they friends, WWE? Well, because they're both high flyers is why they're friends. They're really good working high flyers. All right. And they're going to fight, the Street Profits loads. And then you've got Apollo Crews is going to feud with MVP, who's recruited kind of Bobby Lashley, and he's going after Shelton Benjamin as well. It's just like, guys,
like, should they fight each other because they're good? Yes. But they're fighting each other because they are of the same ethnicity right now. Let's be 100% real. That's why. Where it's just like, yes, Rey Mysterio versus Andrade will always be a fantastic match, no matter what. But they should not be having a match every single week. Just last year, that last half of the year was them every single week. And there were so many people like, I'm so sick of seeing this match over and over and over again. It's like, because you're seeing this match over and over and over again because they don't want to take the risk of having someone else come in. It's just, that's how I feel. Yes, mood. Jam that James Dillon says, so I've been listening to the clips of the mystery fan that has been awesomely shouting at Raw and SmackDown. I think it's none other than the Boogan Gargan himself, Rick Booges. I have no idea what any of that means. I can't just nod along and pretend I know. Do you know? No? Okay, I have no idea. Who's the fan?
So I've been listening to the clips of the mystery fan that has been awesomely shouting at Raw and SmackDown. I think it's none other than the Boogan Gargan himself, Rick Booges.
I think, I'm not sure, but I think he's talking about the dude that came out at NXT a while ago where he was just air guitaring. I think he's in the audience. Do you not? He came out. Is that his name? I think that's his name. But he came out at NXT and he did this whole like air guitar thing, and it was really good. And ever since his online stuff, like on Instagram, it's just him, I guess, air guitaring and hyping himself up and just air guitaring to other people's entrances, and he's in the crowd during SmackDown and Raw.
Okay, I'm looking at a picture of him. He's very, okay.
Yeah.
Sort of like a porn star, Dalton Castle.
It's the question, what do we think of him? He's great.
I genuinely just think it was a statement. I don't think there was a question in there. Because then James Dillon goes on to say, unrelated to that, I think the renewed interest in factions is to build a feud with the Undisputed Era. Let the Franken faction dominate for a while, grabbing every belt minus the WWE Championship. And when they get to the height of annoyance, Cole and company ride in to kick some ass. Like, yeah, that's what you want. Let's get the Undisputed Era and all their white douchebag college pro glory to come in and kick out this sneaky faction run by MVP who's taken over Monday Night Raw. Yeah, the optics on that won't be questionable in any way. Oh my goodness. Irakli says, oh my goodness, this is a good question. You can ask Vince McMahon any question and he can't lie to you. What are you asking? Right?
Do we have the time to actually think about the question? Just one question.
One question to ask Vince McMahon and he cannot lie. Ooh. Because like part of me is just like, part of me wants to know if the Montreal Screwjob was a work, but maybe I don't want to know because that's just me like taking away the magic. Like, what is a wrestling secret that Vince and only Vince holds the key to?
Did you cover up that Jimmy Snuka murder?
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, he did. Oh God, I don't know about my legal allegedly. Cut this bit out. Oh no, what have I done? I brought down WrestleTalk. That's Alex. Alex said that. Sue her.
All me. I'm nobody so far, so you can't sue me. But that's the thing. It's like, what kind of question do you ask? Do you ask that wrestling question of, is the Montreal Screwjob a work? Or do you ask the controversial questions? Or do you ask the silly questions of like, is this true? You hate, what is it? He hates nickels or something? And also he doesn't
sneezing and
he didn't know what a burrito was.
Oh, tell you what I would ask. And he can't lie to me. So he'd be like sort of go in a trance and tell me. I would ask him what he's most afraid of. Ooh. I would try and get psychological with Vince McMahon because I'm desperate to unpick why he makes the decisions he makes. What are you most afraid of, Vince McMahon? Would be mine.
That's a good one. But I feel like that would. No, yeah, that's a good one. See, I have no idea what mine would be. It would probably be very controversial, and then everyone could just cancel me.
I mean, I don't think you necessarily be cancelled for trying to solve a murder. I think
culture is. No, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah. It's all about Scooby-Doo's been cancelled for years because yeah, he's getting up in white men business who are trying to kind of do corporate espionage via ghosts. That's the heart of cancel culture. Right. So Abhinav Jha says, hey, second best Adam on YouTube and Alex. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it. That's cool. Adam Cleary is a lot better than me. So I binge watched all of Dark Side of the Rings episodes and you know what? This is going to be our last question because we've got one more question after this, but I like this question so much. I'm going to have this as our last question because it's a really good one to end on. So instead, I'm going to go to Callum Mann and say, hey, Adam and Alex. Hello. On this week's Dynamite AEW, they announced their women's tag team tournament, the Deadly Draw, I believe it's called, for this summer. So my question for you is, what are some tag team partnerships you would like to see formed for the tournament? Have a great rest of the week and hashtag jam that jam. I know what I want my kind of number one draw to be. Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker. And I know she can't wrestle, so she's going to make Hikaru Shida just wrestle all the matches by herself, whilst also claiming victory for every single one. I think that would be a lot of fun. Just like rolling around at ringside, being just like, I'm in this match, and Hikaru Shida just can't tag her. That would be fun for me. What about you? Who is because I think literally if they don't bring anyone else in, they've got, excluding inactive women, they've got literally 16, I think. So I think they are probably going to include everyone on their current roster.
I mean, Big Swole with just anybody. Big Swole alone. Just have Big Swole enter the tag tournament by herself, and I would believe that she would go all the way. But if you're going to bring anybody new, the Big Swole and Faye Jackson would be good. Chris Statlander is injured still.
Yes,
right?
Still got the ACL injury. Yeah,
that's a shame.
I'd like to renew I'd like to sort of do the kind of the best enemies, kind of worst friends thing with Nyla Rose and Riho. Like those guys, their feud was like one of the true bright spots of the AEW women's division in its first year. So having them, having that kind of animosity having to be put to one side, and then you've also got David and Goliath there on the same team. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Evelise and Demonte would be good. That'd be a great tag team together. I think that would be my answer.
For sure. All right. Well, in which case, let's move on to the last question because it's a lovely one. And thank you again so much to Alex, Queen of the Ring. Please do subscribe to Alex's channel on YouTube, and of course follow Alex. What your Twitter handle changed recently? Is it? It's got you say your Twitter handle for me because I can't remember it because it changed.
My Twitter handle is @Queen of the Ring with 2 G's at the end. And my Instagram is @_Queen of the Ring because I just can't. Everyone took Queen of the Ring, just simple Queen of the Ring. So I had to somehow find a loophole, I guess. But yes, at Twitter, Queen of the Ring with 2 G's and _ Queen of the Ring on Instagram. Yeah.
Magic. So this question from Abhinav Jha. Again, I hope I said your name right. So I binge watched all of Dark Side of the Ring's episodes and I love it. But seeing so much negativity, I think there should be a TV series called Bright Side of the Ring, which shows the positive aspects of wrestling. If it does happen, what would you want to see on it?
I would want to see everything that's happening right now with the speaking out movement, everyone just taking care of everyone else and listening to the victims, and also with the Black Lives Matter movement, how it's they're hard conversations to have, and they're coming from negativity, but at the same time, the way that a lot of promoters and a lot of wrestlers holding other people accountable is positive, because I think that gives us a lot of hope for the future for wrestling to be safe again. So I think that would be a good episode to start off with.
Yeah, absolutely. So watching hopefully, the wrestling kind of business become so much stronger and so much better through something that otherwise would be like poster child for Dark Side of the Ring, and having something kind of flourish from those ashes. In terms of just like pure feel good, like just one of those kind of like, oh, what a warm story, like Daniel Bryan, I think, and to have it be a 2-parter, Daniel Bryan, the rise of to the main event, end with the horrible cliffhanger of the retirement, and then his sort of road back. That would be a fuzzy feeling.
See, that's gonna be a tearjerker if you throw in what's his name? Oh no, Crusher.
Connor the Crusher.
Yes, Connor the Crusher. Yeah, that would be an ultimate tearjerker. I think another Bright Side of the Ring would. Oh man,
Go ahead. I know. DDP and everything that DDP's been doing. Like not only himself breaking into the business in his late 30s, which is like, oh my God, how did you do that? But also just how DDP Yoga and like his kind of almost outreach programs with like some of these guys like Jake the Snake and Scott Hall, like watching him rehabilitate some of these guys to the best shape of their life, like Jake Roberts being back on TV, which would not have happened without DDP. That would be, one of my picks for sure for Bright Side of the Ring.
Yeah, and women's evolution.
Oh yeah,
just piggyback as they did the Fabulous Moolah episode. Why not just go off from there? Piggyback.
Yeah, how Stephanie McMahon created women's wrestling. Like it's such an inspirational tale. How does she do it? Like genuinely one of my heroes. I'm sorry. I've caused you to have an aneurysm. I'm very sorry about that.
But I'm glad that he binge watched Dark Side of the Ring. I was doing some watch-alongs with Dark Side of the Ring with the second season on my YouTube channel. Selfless plug, I guess.
Nice. Okay, so just to kind of cap off that plug, like what if someone wants to start watching Alex Dark Side of the Ring watch-alongs, what's the one you would point them to first?
There were some heavy ones that I reacted to. I would Owen Hart. Oh my gosh, that whole entire episode was. I've waited all of my life to watch that episode because I watched that pay-per-view live, and I was a huge Owen. Yeah, oh my God. Yeah. I watched that. I mean, I wasn't there, but I watched it, live when I was younger, and I didn't know what was happening. And I remember I was so young and I went to my parents. I was like, what's going on? What's going on? It's like, oh, you know how the Undertaker just kills people? That's what happened. So I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't really understand. I didn't really like grasp the concept that it was real until I got older. And I was like, oh yeah, Owen Hart died. Oh yeah, that's it. Oh, whoa, that's a thing. And then when the episode aired and they showed the clip and the fact that his widow still had the clip, just, I started crying. My jaw was to the floor. I could not believe God, that episode was just heavy. That was heavy to watch. And also the season premiere with Chris Benoit.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But bright side of the ring, happy days, pandemic wrestling. It's all gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. It's the year of our Lord 2020, and it's all going to be fine. That has been the WrestleTalk magazine show. Your oasis of calm in this whirling volcano of cruelty and misery that is 2020. Again, I want to thank Alex, Queen of the Ring. Thank you so much for donating your time to this very silly Q&A. And yes, we'll catch you next week. Luke will be back, and so will another special guest. And as Luke would say, thank you, I love you, goodbye.